drawn and redrawn, the making of India's internal boundaries.
Hi, and welcome back to India's State Stories, a project that explores the evolution of India's political and administrative boundaries. This project is supported by the Center for Legislative Education and Research, Flame University, Pune.
Integration of princely states was a complex process which resulted in the new states that were divided into 4 administrative categories, parts A, B, C, and D. This series focuses on the 3 main categories that are part A, B, and C. In the first part, we will be exploring the integration of princely states that formed the part A states. In other words, they were absorbed and merged into their respective British provinces. These range from major states like Baroda, Kolhapur to smaller and little known regions like Sandur and patchwork of states in modern day Gujarat and Orissa. The merger agreements for most of the states were modelled after Orissa and Chhattisgarh state mergers, and their administration was transferred to provincial governments. Now let's look at the stories of each of these in more detail in the following episodes. Listen to the first 3 episodes of Season 2 to understand a deeper context. These episodes give an overview of the entire process of integration, along with an introduction to the legal instruments and some key personalities which made it possible. More details are in the show notes below, and let's dive in.
You know, sometimes the most profound historical narratives aren't found in the grand, sweeping sagas of empires, but in the intricate, often overlooked stories of smaller places, individual decisions, and the surprising ways our maps are shaped and reshaped.
That's so true.
Today, we're taking a journey into one such unique slice of Indian history, delving into the fascinating story of Cooch-Behar. We've got a fantastic collection of sources that traces its path from an ancient princely state to its eventual integration into modern West Bengal.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
Our mission today is to truly unpack this rich and complex history, from ancient treaties and legendary chess games to high-stakes political maneuvering and modern-day questions, and discover why this particular merger still sparks conversation and debate decades later. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here is how the story of Cooch-Behar perfectly illustrates the immense complexities and, the strategic calculations involved in the formation of modern India. It's like a microcosm of the larger process of nation building.
Right.
We'll be connecting the dots between its deep ancient past, its unique and challenging geography, and the shrewd political maneuvering that ultimately shaped its destiny, offering you a complete and nuanced picture of this often overlooked but crucially important integration.
Okay, so to really get Cooch-Behar's journey, we have to rewind the clock significantly. I mean, this wasn't some newly formed territory, right?
Not at all. It was an ancient princely state, a self-governing monarchical state during the British Raj, with a recorded history that spans over 3 centuries before its merger.
Wow, 3 centuries.
Yeah. Its traditions and lineage were so rich, they were preserved in an epic called the Rajmala. It chronicles the reigns of its rulers and their deep historical roots.
That really speaks to its long-standing identity.
Indeed. And that deep historical root system, it really highlights the immense challenge of integrating such long-standing sovereign entities into a new unified nation. We're talking about a distinct cultural and political identity here. Our sources show that as far back as 1773, Cooch-Behar had a significant treaty with the East India Company. And its then Raja, the traditional title for a Hindu monarch, had even agreed to its annexation to the province of Bengal.
Okay, but that wasn't the end of it, was it?
Not even close. Here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, quite messy.
Exactly, because despite that early agreement, even after it was included in Bengal districts by a regulation in 1793, there was this persistent, century-long administrative question hanging over the region.
Mm-hmm.
Was Cooch-Behar truly a state or an estate?
Right. And that wasn't just legal jargon.
No, it was a genuine identity crisis for the whole territory and its people. Was it sovereign or just, a landlord's patch under British control?
And this limbo, this ambiguity, it wasn't resolved until 1873, a full century later.
100 years.
That's when it was finally decided that Cooch-Behar was, in fact, not British territory, but a distinct princely state. Imagine living with that uncertainty for so long.
So that brings up a key point. What was Cooch-Behar actually like just before it joined independent India? Because it sounds pretty significant.
Oh, it absolutely was. We're not talking about a small, insignificant dot on the map that could be easily absorbed. Our sources depict it as a substantial and thriving entity.
How substantial are we talking?
Well, it spanned an impressive area of 1,318 square miles, like roughly the size of Rhode Island in the U.S.
Okay, that's decent sized.
And it had a population of about 6.5 lakh people. So lakh is 100,000, meaning 650,000 citizens. That's a significant landmass and population to integrate.
And it wasn't just big in area and population, right? It was economically strong too.
Remarkably robust, actually. Our sources mention an impressive annual revenue of roughly 1.11 crore rupees.
And a crore is 10 million. So back then, that was a lot of money.
A huge amount. It shows it was a prosperous state, a real economic asset, not some kind of burden. Plus, it was a food surplus area, crucial for stability, and get this, it grew some of the finest tobacco. Yeah, bringing in a whopping 40 lakh rupees in export duty alone.
Wow.
So this economic strength is really key. Cooch-Behar wasn't coming into the union from a position of weakness. It was a significant player. That definitely shaped the negotiations.
And strategically, its location must have been important too.
Its strategic importance, well, you really can't overstate it. Geographically, it sat right at a critical juncture.
Bordering who?
It bordered East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, of course, West Bengal, and Assam.
So right in the thick of things.
Exactly. This unique location presented both huge opportunities, like for trade, but also major administrative and security challenges, especially with varied terrain, plains, and hill tracts.
Making stable administration vital, I imagine.
Absolutely critical, particularly with those potentially volatile post-partition borders. And it was these borders, this unique geography, that led to one of the most, well, astonishing legacies of Cooch-Behar, the infamous enclaves.
Okay, the enclaves. This is where it gets truly fascinating and honestly a bit mind-boggling. The chits, as they were called locally. You have to picture this patches of land belonging to one country, completely surrounded by the territory of another. It sounds almost medieval.
It does, doesn't it? And the origin story itself is quite legendary, maybe even whimsical.
What's the story?
It's believed to stem from a historic chess game played between the Maharaja of Cooch-Behar and the Fujdar, sort of a governor of Rainpur.
A chess game? Seriously?
Apparently, they literally staked villages as pieces on the board. A playful origin, perhaps?
But with incredibly real and lasting consequences for generations. From a chess game, it makes you think about those unforeseen ripple effects, doesn't it?
It really does. So after the 1947 partition, this historical quirk meant you had Indian territories completely surrounded by East Pakistan and Pakistani territories surrounded by India. Hundreds of these little pockets.
And the human cost of that.
Oh, the human impact was anything but whimsical. For decades, these enclave dwellers were basically stateless.
Stateless? How so?
They were cut off from basic infrastructure and services. Imagine needing a road, a school, a hospital.
Or just paperwork, like a birth certificate.
Exactly. The nearest government office for your nationality might be miles away, across an international border you couldn't easily cross.
That just puts such a human face on these big geopolitical decisions, a line on a map, an old chess game, dictating lives.
Absolutely. And it took a very long time to fix. There was a land boundary agreement, the LBA, discussed back in 1974, but it failed initially.
Or dragged on.
For decades. It wasn't until 2015 that India and Bangladesh finally ratified a comprehensive LBA to exchange these enclaves and what they call adverse possessions.
And what was the outcome of that exchange?
Interestingly, Bangladesh actually ended up gaining slightly more territory by area than India in that final swap. It just highlights the really long-term complex legacy of these historical arrangements. It took nearly 70 years after partition to fully resolve it for the people living there.
Okay, so we have this ancient, prosperous state, tricky borders, these mind-bending enclaves. It's clear the integration into modern India wasn't going to be straightforward. What were the main pressures leading up to the merger?
Well, our sources definitely paint a picture of considerable volatility and intrigue around that time. VP Menon, who was a key architect of integrating the princely states into India, he noted significant unrest among the people in Cooch-Behar.
Unrest? About what?
It seems there was a mix of internal and external pressures driving the urgency for merger. Internally, there were reports of intrigues by Cooch-Behar's own prime minister, a man named Himmat Singh Maheshwari.
Intrigues? Like what?
Well, he was allegedly involved in encouraging pro-Pakistan sentiment among some groups. That's a serious security concern for the brand new Union of India, right on its border.
Definitely. And external pressures.
Simultaneously, there were reports that Pakistan was actively trying to, let's say, strengthen communal elements in the region. clearly trying to destabilize India's sensitive new borders.
So not just abstract intrigue, real challenges to India's stability.
Precisely. It sounds like a real powder keg situation brewing.
Wow. So the stakes were incredibly high, not just for Cooch-Behar itself, but for India's geopolitical stability.
Absolutely.
So given these volatile conditions, the internal issues, the external threats, what was the first step? How did India handle it?
The initial decision was pragmatic. They decided to administer Cooch-Behar as a chief commissioner's province.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Like a union territory today?
Sort of, yes.
Right.
It meant direct administration by the central government in Delhi rather than immediately merging it into a larger state like West Bengal or Assam.
Was that meant to be permanent?
No, it was explicitly a temporary measure. The idea was to stabilize the area quickly, get a handle on the situation, before making a final decision on its long-term future.
And VP Menon was behind this.
Menon personally pushed for this swift action. He convinced Sardar Patel, the home minister, that it was necessary, especially given the potential for external meddling from Pakistan. They need to act fast.
You can see the urgency. So the Maharaja agreed.
Yes, the Maharaja signed the instrument of merger on August 30th, 1949. This officially ceded his state to India.
And the takeover.
Very quick. The government of India took over administration on September 12th, 1949, just about 2 weeks later. A really pivotal moment.
So that temporary status stabilized things, but like you said, it wasn't the final plan. What happened next?
Right. The question became, what's the long-term vision? How does this provisional status become permanent integration?
And that leads us to the final act, the merger with West Bengal, because it didn't stay a chief commissioner's province for very long, did it?
No, just a few months. In December 1949, Sardar Patel, after consulting carefully with West Bengal's premier, Dr. B.C. Roy, two giants of post-independence India, they decided Cooch-Behar should officially merge into West Bengal.
Effective when?
Effective January 1st, 1950. So a pretty quick turnaround from the initial takeover.
Okay, but given Cooch-Behar's unique history, its prosperity, what assurances were made? You can't just absorb a place like that without considering its identity and, well, its people.
Absolutely not. And that was clearly understood. The merger agreement itself involved the cession of full and exclusive authority, jurisdiction, and powers, basically, complete control to the Dominion government, meaning India.
Full control, but what about the local specifics?
Crucially, there were key provisions to protect the interests and administrative continuity for the people. Dr. B.C. Roy, the West Bengal premier, was very clear on this.
What did he promise?
He explicitly assured them that Cooch-Behar would be maintained as a separate district. Its headquarters would stay in Cooch-Behar town. It wouldn't just be dissolved into existing districts.
That's important for local identity.
Very. And he also promised the existing administrative setup wouldn't be immediately dismantled. There'd be a transition period of 3 to 6 months before it fully integrated as a regular district within West Bengal.
Okay, so continuity was key. What else? Representation, jobs.
Yes. Representation was guaranteed in the West Bengal legislature based on population, so their voice wouldn't be lost.
And government employees.
All the existing state servants were to be absorbed into the West Bengal government service. Importantly, on terms no less advantageous than what they had before. And if anyone was discharged, there was provision for compensation, addressing those job security fears.
Right, practical concerns. And financially. It was a rich state, you imagine. What happened to its treasury?
Good question. The state treasury had a substantial balance, about 1.5 crore rupees at the time. That money was specifically earmarked to be spent on nation-building schemes for the benefit of Cooch-Behar's people.
So reinvested locally.
Exactly. Ensuring its wealth served its citizens directly. Even the rulers, the Maharaja and his family, though they lost political power, they kept their titles, their dignities, their private property.
And the pretty purse.
And a substantial privy purse, yes. 8,050,000 rupees annually. This was a common arrangement across India for integrating princely states and allowance to maintain their status. Initially, it was paid from Cooch-Behar's own revenues, later shifted to the central budget. It was a comprehensive package, really trying to smooth the transition for everyone involved.
So how was this all made official legally?
It was formalized through an order under Section 290A of the Government of India Act 1935. This is the key legal tool allowing the new government to smoothly integrate these princely states, bringing their administration in line with the existing provinces, which were classified as Part A states.
Part A, meaning they had an elected governor, the legislature, the standard setup?
Precisely. It provided a solid legal framework for what was essentially a very complex political act.
So the merger happened, it was legally formalized, but the story doesn't quite end there, does it?
No, history rarely ties up quite so neatly. Decades later, in 1998, a new group emerged, the Greater Cooch-Behar People's Association, or GCPA.
And they brought these old agreements back into the conversation.
They did. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights how historical agreements and the promises made during these crucial nation-building moments can keep resonating, sometimes sparking new movements generations later.
What was their specific issue?
The GCPA explicitly stated that the way Cooch-Behar became part of West Bengal violated the terms of the agreement.
Violated how? What was their claim?
Their leaders alleged the inclusion in West Bengal was illegal. They claimed Cooch-Behar was promised it would be a Part C state.
Okay, remind us, Part C meant centrally administered.
Yes, like a union territory today, with a more direct link to the central government, rather than merging into a Part A state like West Bengal, which had its own elected government and more autonomy.
So they felt a promise was broken regarding its administrative status.
That was their core argument. They demanded the implementation of what they called the original merger agreement.
So what does this tell us about the legacy of the merger, even now?
It signifies the enduring impact, I think, of perceived promises made during such a critical foundational period, and how interpretations of those promises can continue to fuel movements and raise questions decades down the line.
It brings up that crucial point about balancing official histories, the documents.
Exactly. Balancing those with the lived experiences, the perceptions of the people directly affected.
Yeah.
And how those different interpretations can really shape ongoing political discourse and regional identity for a very, very long time.
What an incredible deep dive into the history of Cooch-Behar. I mean, from a legendary chess game creating enclaves to the high-stakes politics of newly independent India and that delicate balance of promises and legal provisions. It's just such a testament to the complex tapestry of nation building.
It really is.
You've heard how its strategic location, its economic strength, and those specific assurances made to its people and rulers all played a part in shaping its destiny.
And this story truly demonstrates that even historical events that seem settled, legally formalized, can hold lingering questions and very different interpretations within communities for years, even generations.
Yeah.
Understanding Cooch-Behar's journey, I think it really enriches our appreciation for just how nuanced and often challenging the process of state integration was and is in a diverse nation like India. It reminds you that history is rarely a closed book.
So true. So the next time you look at a map, maybe pause and consider the unseen stories, the old agreements, the human experiences that carved out those borders and continue to shape the lives within them. What other unpacked historical decisions might have left a similar subtle imprint on the world around us, just waiting for us to uncover?
A great thought to leave with.
That's it for this deep dive. We hope you found it as illuminating and thought-provoking as we did. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep asking questions and keep exploring.